The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Wrestling to the Max. Monday Night Raw review.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another great episode of Wrestling to the Max Raw review. And this one, of course, is for April 16th, 2018. I, of course, am your host, Gary Vaughan, and along with me is Mr. Brandon Biskobing.
Hello. I missed the Fallout show, which I was disappointed in.
Yeah, man, we miss you. It was kind of a bummer when I heard that you were sick, but I'm glad you're back and healthy. Or are you healthy? Are you feeling completely better, man?
I mean, I still have a bit of a cough, but for the most part, I'm like probably 90% better.
Hey, that's better than being at least 50%. So I'm happy at least you're that far along and you're able to join me for this episode. And you know what, Brandon? You missed a Fallout episode, that big, post WrestleMania Raw. But guess what? You got another big show. This is the Shakeup edition of Monday Night Raw. So this is going to be a lot of fun for both of us. We get to chat a lot about a few of the different changes in the roster, and that's going to be a really good time. We'll also get a chance to kind of maybe speculate on who's going over there to the SmackDown side, because you covered that show too. So you'll have a lot of fun tomorrow night talking about that for SmackDown side of it.
Yeah.
But before we get this whole thing going, Brandon, I want to let the people know a couple things. First thing, if you were looking for an episode of Wrestling to the Max last week and you I never saw it, I never got one, I want to be the first to apologize to everyone out there. We decided, to do the show a little bit later in the week because of WrestleMania happened. And of course, post WrestleMania, things are still kind of slow. Things are still kind of getting into place for what's going to happen next. And it just would have been a show full of speculation and things like that. And I was super busy. Sean was super busy. And Brandon, of course, was sick. He was under the weather. So everybody that was able to do the show was kind of out of place. And not only that, you guys would have had a show that was full of, once again, just questions instead of facts. So we decided to hold off. We are going to have one this week, maybe two. You just keep your eyes posted. But I just want to let you know, I do apologize. You didn't get one last week, but you did get some amazing shows when it came to the WrestleMania recap. You also got a NXT TakeOver recap. And, of course, Sean and I covered Monday Night Raw for you guys. And, of course, all the other shows got done except NXT. But NXT, that's a simple – it's really just a double show.
We'll probably do just a double show this week. Yeah,
there was only 2 matches. Yeah. So we kind of felt like, if we get on for 15 minutes and we're done, let's save it.
The NXTs after TakeOver are basically just recap and 2 matches.
Exactly. So we're like, let's just hold off. Yeah, screw it. So, but we're back in action, guys. We're so glad to be here tonight with you. And hey, make sure you tell everybody about what's going on over here, because we are back in the swing of things, and it's time for people to know W2Mnet.com is where you find Wrestling to the Max and all the other great, basically podcasts and articles and everything that comes to that website. It's all there for you to go check out. And of course, hey, wherever you get your podcast from, maybe it's Stitcher, maybe it's iTunes, or even, maybe iHeartRadio, YouTube. Make sure you hit that subscribe button over at the W2M Network. Once you do that, you not only get all the great Wrestling to the Max episodes and shows and reviews and recaps of pay-per-views, but you also get all the other great shows on that, network, like the Kickoff. Of course, they got a lot of stuff going on over there on the Kickoff.
That'll be coming back soon.
Excited about that. MMA to the Max. Of course, you listen to the recap of the WrestleMania and TakeOver shows. You heard Mr. Robert Taylor, who does an excellent job over there on MMA to the Max, and all the other great shows. I could sit here and name everything. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to let you guys go check it out. Also, don't forget to go subscribe, rate, and review, though. Once you hit that subscribe button, like I said, you get everything. But rating and reviewing also gives us a little bit of feedback on what you like, and it also gives us a little help when you hit those 5 stars. So please go do that if you haven't already. And big shout out to 411mania.com and lastwordonprowrestling.com, both great sites. They are big supporters of ours. We want to make sure we support them back. Let's get this thing kicked off, Brendan. I can't wait to
Yeah.
talk about this
But
episode with you.
but before
So,
we jump into the show itself, I want to get your opinion on something that, I mean, I know it's kind of a moot point at this point because this is the second time they've done it, and they had the same exact formula, with maybe one exception to this. But when they first announced the whole Superstar Shakeup last year, I was thinking, okay, I was thinking it like they did the draft, where, it would be more legitimate. You'd actually see Shane and Stephanie, or Daniel and, well, at that time, Mick Foley. This time, Paige and Kurt talking, making deals, and actually, I mean, I get the concept for why they wouldn't do this, but why they wouldn't do it on Raw. But at least maybe do it on SmackDown, or do it on WWE.com after the fact, of actually making trades and seeing the reasoning for why, this person was traded for this person, or, actually make it to where, it's not just, this person is randomly being moved to SmackDown or to Raw, I know it's a moot point at this point, but, it would have been nice to have actually seen some sort of rhyme behind, some sort of rhyme and reason behind everything that's going on with the whole shakeup.
I think we're on the same page with this too, because of the fact that I watched this Monday Night Raw, and as we'll get into it, I kind of felt like, yes, they were trying to surprise you with the new names that'll be attached to Monday Night Raw on this roster, but it felt like we just made a rash few decisions here. This is who you're going to get. No word on all that explanation stuff that you just mentioned, Brandon. We're just going to deal with it and move on. I'm right there with you on that, because I do enjoy the whole draft feel that they used to give us at times. Like you said, you have general managers going back and forth, even the commissioners, kind of really breaking this thing down, and you kind of get excited because you're like, oh man, they're chatting over there. Who's going to get traded next? And now you're just like, oh, I hear the next entrance coming in. It's basically a second Fallout show from WrestleMania, really.
Pretty much. And I mean, I don't think I've mentioned it in depth on either show on W2M since the announcement was made, but Vince McMahon's attention span has decreased exponentially, because what took almost like 6 to 10 years has only taken 2 for him to completely consolidate everything. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news for those of you that like the brand split, but no matter how, and especially with the new TV deal, and who knows what's going to happen with that and all of that, even if SmackDown remains live, I'm calling it within another 2 years, 3 max, it's going to be all recombined yet again, because this has just, it's fallen apart, not in a creative way. The SmackDown Live is as strong as it's ever been, but in terms of a, just purely storyline, and in terms of, pay-per-views, and in terms of, the brand split, the way they've handled it's disintegrated already.
Yeah, you know what? I'm on the thought process of, I hate these new blended pay-per-views. I just don't like it. It bugs the crap out of me, because I kind of feel like, I think a lot of you guys out there listening do, I feel like that now all the guys and gals that we really wanted to get a chance to see move up and do bigger and better things for themselves by getting into these pay-per-views, that's no longer going to happen. Now you're just going to have the top people, the people that have been there for years, or maybe the people that are valued most by Vince or whoever's in charge at the time. They are going to be the showcase of those pay-per-views, and all the people that you've been excited to see, or maybe you really want to see do something special, maybe a pre-show match, maybe, and that's a big bummer.
And not only that, it also takes away from the significance of the Big Four.
Yeah, you're exactly right, and that's another thing too. Why did we love the fact that Survivor Series and WrestleMania, and of course Royal Rumble, all these big shows? why do we like him so much? Because it's the excitement of now these two brands are matching up and they're going to do. Now it's every single pay-per-view. It's blasé, it's boring. And if we go by your scenario right here, Brandon, we say the same thing's going to happen now with Raw and SmackDown. They're just going to be blended. It's going to have bleed over for both shows. I almost don't. I guess the only reason I would even see the point for SmackDown anymore would be just for the fact that now you just have some run over from whenever Raw left.
Well,
like
I mean, it would basically go back to what it was between 2012 and 2016, where it's just kind of the B show, and if I watch it, I watch it. If I don't, I don't.
The scraps.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what it is. It's whatever got knocked off the dinner table, which is Monday Night Raw. I hate to say it, but it's the flagship for WWE. It's been that for years. But SmackDown at the pinnacle did some good things, but Vince was always determined Raw was going to be the best. And as long as Vince is in control, that's the way it's always going to be. SmackDown could overachieve, but they'll always make sure Monday Night Raw gets the cream of the crop.
Well, I think that's why this has happened so quickly, was because SmackDown was getting all the praise from the beginning, and Vince didn't like it.
Yeah, and you're probably right about that. I mean, I don't know, how much Vince is going to be involved once, we get the XFL stuff going, and maybe the rumors of Triple H grabbing a hold of this thing and maybe revamping it is going to be true. I think a lot of fans out there kind of hope that's the case. But who knows when that's going to actually be? And not only that, maybe he's still going to have a little bit of say, here and there. And Triple H cannot do all the things we want him to do. So I think it's interesting. I'm glad you brought up the point, Brandon, because I think this whole episode kind of just brought that to reality. That this is happening. It's now. It's no longer, this could happen, or when this does happen. It's here. So let's see how all this shakes out. But let's jump into this episode because we get off. The whole thing started off by having Kurt Angle come to the ring and basically welcome everybody to Monday Night Raw and the whole Superstar Shakeup. And before he can even get anything really out about what's going to be taking place and who's going to be part of the new Monday Night Raw roster, Jinder Mahal is the guy that comes out and says he, is here on Monday Night Raw, and he says to basically Kurt and everyone else that's listening, like he's a modern day Maharaja and he deserves a limo. He doesn't need an SUV or anything else, a Range Rover. He deserves a limousine. He needs the same treatment that Brock Lesnar gets as a superstar on Monday Night Raw. And Kurt doesn't really agree. And I think all the fans definitely let the whole world know they didn't agree either. And it was just kind of funny because I love that whole the crowd was kind of really into this at points in this show. But I want to say that during this whole thing, Kurt's going back and forth with Jinder, and he says, you know what, you say that you're better than everybody else in that Raw locker room, and no matter what, you're going to be the best. Well, then put it to the test tonight. We do things in Monday Night Raw by handling it in the ring, and Kurt Angle basically calls out to the Raw roster and says, whoever wants to take on Jinder Mahal gets a shot at the U.S. title. Jinder Mahal is not happy, and guess who shows up? Jeff Hardy. He comes out, and the crowd is loving that. They have their little match here, and it is a pretty, I would say a pretty solid match here. I think I enjoyed it more than I felt like I was going to be honest with you. In the end, though, we have Jeff Hardy as your new United States champion, and Jinder Mahal is pissed. So we have all that take place. What did you think about this, Brandon, with Jeff Hardy coming and getting that title and all that showed up?
I mean, as a fan of Hardy and not so much a fan of Jinder, I'm happy about it. But in terms of just looking at it purely on like the whole storyline and everything like that, again, this is another situation where it kind of gets confusing. Maybe we'll get an answer tomorrow, but does this now mean that Jeff is a part of SmackDown? Does this mean that the U.S. title is a Raw title? That's the type of questions that they should be answering, but obviously they're not, at least yet. I'm assuming they'll answer it tomorrow. But another thing, and a lot of fans that liked him after his giant mega push may not like this, but is this an indication that Jinder the gender experiment is over, that he's going back down to jobber status on Raw again.
I think the first thing we do need to note is that it was a definite Jinder Mahal is a part of the Raw roster. So that means the United States Championship was a part of the Raw roster at that point. And I think for Jeff to come out, unless they send Jeff over to SmackDown, which I just don't see it. I think Jeff Hardy.
But then does that mean, that Seth is going over to SmackDown?
I think so. I really, because you didn't see him tonight, besides in the main event. I think it's going to be a big deal tomorrow. That's one of my predictions for tomorrow. I really feel like Seth Rollins is going to be a part of the SmackDown Live roster and holding that Intercontinental title. I felt like they were going to flip-flop these titles anyway to different brands. I don't know. I just had a gut feeling, and they finally, I feel like, did it. Now, once again, I could be completely wrong. Maybe Jeff Hardy does move brands, and I'll be wrong again. But I just kind of feel like they're going to do that. And
so is this going to be a running gag now that every Superstar Shakeup they're going to switch mid-card titles? Because those are the only two titles that can really actually move.
Yeah, you're right, because you can't move the tag titles. That would be kind of stupid, right? Yeah. You can't have the blue titles over.
The only way that could potentially work is if you swap teams, but those teams basically just exchange belts.
Yeah, basically. Same with the
same with the women.
Raw, yeah, exactly. The Raw women,
and in theory, same with the Universal and World Heavyweight.
Yeah, and which I honestly, kind of thought that could be a possibility as well. I really kind of.
That would kind of be a funny little segment that you've got there. Oh yeah, we picked up the tag champs, which means that we're sending our tag champs to SmackDown. You guys, you need to exchange belts.
Yeah, we can't have any blue over here on Monday Night Raw. We're sorry, this does not work. Color scheme wise, yeah, exchange those titles, and and the same like we were talking about the Universal title, and of course the WWE Championship belts. WWE's Championship belt definitely could land up on Monday Night Raw, but how could you have a red belt over there with a Universal title on SmackDown? It just doesn't work.
Unless they decide to change it to blue.
Yeah, they'd have to literally change it to blue, and I guess they could. But it would also match the Raw, the SmackDown Women's Championship
belt. Not necessarily, because you'd have a blue strap. You'd have blue strap with the blue plate, and then just change, instead of it being the black underline on the W, turn it back to red.
I guess so. That's a fair point. I guess you could do that, and I don't have a problem with that per se. I just don't know if they want to do that, but I wouldn't have an issue. I think it'd be kind of great for WWE to have their championship belt back on Monday Night Raw, to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. To me, it makes a lot of sense. And who knows? It still could happen. There's no guarantee that AJ Styles is going to stay on SmackDown Live. There was speculation he was going to be one of the guys that moved over to kind of help Roman Reigns, kind of have some good matches.
Well, at this point, I think it's pretty much a done deal. I think everyone that's moving to Raw has already been moved.
Yeah, I think you're probably got a good point there, but you never know. Maybe they want to keep us guessing. I think they will want us to guess and keep guessing, They don't want us to walk into SmackDown saying, oh, we already get it. We know who's switching. So, but yeah, this is the scenario we have here. Jinder Mahal, of course, now without the, U.S. Championship belt around his waist, he is pissed. He goes backstage. And of course, he tells Renee Young that, this is unfair. The American gold medalist was, of course, trying to mess him up because, he wasn't ready. And so now, because of this terrible racism, basically this, I think we was throwing at him, he was saying that he feels like it's owed to him to have his rematch clause at the Greatest Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia. So look for that. It'll be Jeff Hardy and Jinder Mahal once again facing off for the United States Championship belt. And I think they did a decent match here. I think they'll have a good match at the Greatest Royal Rumble. It'll be a lot of fun. I still kind of feel like Jeff's still going to walk away with the belt. But, yeah. What do you think about Jeff? Okay, I just want to say this. What do you think about Jeff having his little issue before he came back to WWE, and now all of a sudden they're throwing a belt around his waist. It's almost like that whole DUI thing was never an issue for WWE.
Well, they did the same thing with I forget which one it was, but one of the Usos had a similar issue a while back, and everyone was thinking, oh, they're gonna like they were supposed to have a title shot or a title match like the next week, and everyone was thinking, oh, they're gonna lose now, and I think they might have won.
Mhm.
I don't distinctly remember what pay per view it was or anything like that, but um, you know, it kind of shows that WWE has faith in their guys, and one little mess up isn't gonna completely derail your whole entire push, especially if they have plans for you. I mean, the only time, but this was a bigger deal. The only time that I really remember, anyone, but this was more wellness policy related and more in ring related. The only time I ever really remember a push, at least for the time being, getting sidelined was with Roman.
Yeah, and Romans was definitely a big deal because they don't want their big names to go down in scandals such as steroids. They really want to
Mm-hmm.
avoid that, so they had to punish basically one of the bigger guys. They had no choice in that matter. So I feel like that was kind of fair, but understandable at the same time. I think that, Jeff is definitely a proven entity when it comes to making merchandise money for him, making people want to watch Raw, SmackDown, wherever the heck the guy's at. So he I think it's those special trip privileges on those
Mm-hmm.
instances, and we have to just expect it. It's the way the world works, man. You make money for somebody, they're going to give you a break.
Yeah,
So,
I,
but
I'm just
I'm happy.
I'm just hoping that we get like a two faces of Hardy type deal, or maybe even three faces of Hardy type deal, with getting some brother Nero at some times, and maybe even I don't know if he owns the rights to this because I would assume not because it wasn't under the Broken Universe umbrella, but I would
Mhm.
love to see some Willow.
Oh yeah, that would be a lot of fun. But I'm really curious if WB even wants to do that. That would have to be something where Jeff's really not doing a whole lot where they could do that.
Hmm.
I think while he's holding that U.S. title belt, he's going to be away from Woken Matt Hardy.
Yeah.
I think they're going to keep that separation, and then eventually, when he loses the U.S. title, they get back together at some point down the line. Then I really feel like they're going to do when Bray splits away from Matt. I really, really think that's going to be the case, where he'll have to call on Brother Nero, and that's okay. And maybe Willow does show up then, but. I really do question if Vince really wants to see Willow. I really do, because Itchweed, I definitely don't think is going to be around. So, but yeah, I also want to mention before we quit talking about this opening match and all that, we also had No Way Jose pop up and entertain Jinder, just really pissed off Jinder Mahal. I love that look to Jinder Mahal. I just really pissed off, angry. But no way Jose just tells him to smile and then ask Renee Young if she wants to go for a fiesta. She does. So they take off. So there you go.
it,
There's your No Way Jose moment.
Is No Way Jose gonna be is No Way Jose gonna be this year's version of Elias, where he's just gonna be walking around the back the whole time partying?
You know what? I wish for No Way Jose that could be the case. I just don't think he has it like Elias does. I feel like more like we're looking at Adam Rose for 2018.
I'm
So
hoping that he gets a little bit more than Adam Rose did.
yeah, I don't know. It just scares me. He's basically matching the same gimmick. He just doesn't
Yeah.
have a
Oh no,
lollipop.
it scares me too. Because I mean, ever since No Way Jose debuted, I remember when he debuted, and it's kind of funny how I think of his opponent more as the first opponent of No Way Jose than what he's currently doing Insanity. Um, but I remember when he debuted, and at first I was thinking, oh, another, with his name, I was thinking, oh, it's just gonna be like another luchador or another generic character. But then he
Mhm.
comes out all dancing and everything, and he's using like the baseball moves and whatnot, and I was hooked automatically.
Yeah, but you're a big baseball guy,
Yes.
so you gotta love it.
Of course.
They never had a shot to make you angry once they started doing that.
No.
So. Oh boy, but yeah, there you go. There's your No Way Jose sighting. Let's move on to the next match. We have Sasha Banks and Bayley on a one-on-one match on Monday Night Raw, which I'm a little surprised they went ahead and threw these two together so fast. I thought they would kind of still slow burn this thing a little bit, but they had a little bit of time here. You did had a moment here at the end where Sasha Banks had the bank statement on. Bayley looks like she's going to tap, and then the Riot Squad attacks and beats them both down. So now you do know that the Riot Squad has switched brands. They now are part of Monday Night Raw. I have no idea where that leaves Absolution. I kind of feel like
I have a feeling I know where.
Yeah, I think so. So we were probably agreeing on that. But yeah, I mean, what do you think about this, man? I guess it's still kind of a slow burn for Bayley and Sasha, but yet to me, this is dumb. I don't know why they have to continually get attacked by factions. Like they're busy trying to hate each other.
Well, I was just about to say that it's like, they're trying to build this whole rivalry between these two. Yet they've got these larger factions going after the two of them, which, no matter how much you hate someone at a certain time, especially when they were your friends, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So therefore, when you're both getting attacked by, a larger faction, shouldn't you be teaming up to take care of that issue first? So I don't know where this leaves this whole feud between them and with Riot Squad and with Absolution, and it's just a whole big convoluted mess right now. I understand why they did it, just purely on the level that, obviously a hyped match like this, you don't want to give away a clean finish on a Raw, no matter how big the Raw is. Granted, they've done that plenty of times in the past. I shouldn't be one to talk. But, I'm okay with it as long as they have a plan moving forward. Mm-hmm. But, it's just, I don't know. Like I said, it's a little too convoluted at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, you make that point of, they've got to do this because Sasha and Bayley are going to have a big match eventually, and you don't want to give away the entire enchilada, right? You want to make sure you leave something there for people to really get into, and they don't want people to get on social media and say, we saw that match, we don't want to see it, at the next big pay-per-view you guys got going. But on the other hand, it seems like they've had Absolution do this over and over again. Now the Riot Squad, I'm just like, God, guys.
Honestly, I think the better way to have handled this, granted, I'm trying to think, I think there was only one other woman trade tonight, and that wouldn't have worked, but, the better way, in my opinion, to have done this would have been for it to be a single woman attacking them, whether it's, obviously tonight, with it being the shakeup, you would have wanted it to be someone coming over from SmackDown just as that surprise. But it should have been a single woman attacking them both. And then them both, like, one-on-one, each of them separately on 2 separate weeks, taking out that opponent in a one-on-one match and then refocusing on each other. That would have made a little more sense to have built up the anticipation for the match, and then that way you get it at the pay-per-view.
Yeah, I see what you're coming from there, and I think that they would be smarter to do something in that instance. But, I feel like that they have some things that they're not yet telling us, and so SmackDown Live tomorrow will probably understand a little bit more about their equations and thought processes on some of these feuds. But, like you said, as we sit here, what they've given us is a little bit of, hey, here's what we want to do, but once again, we're going to find a way to swerve it out of your hands until the next time. And that's okay. It makes sense. And it's a catch-22. I'll say it that way. Very much a catch-22. It makes sense, but to me, it doesn't make sense. So here we go.
What they wanted to do with it, their motives behind it made sense. the implementation of it, maybe not so much. Like,
Yep.
I would have just maybe had, yes, you would have had in the back of your head that, yes, Liv Morgan and Sarah Logan are there in the background, but I would have just had Ruby Riott maybe attack them individually on
Mhm.
her own, and then had, Bayley versus Ruby Riott next week.
Mhm.
Sasha Banks versus Ruby Riott the week after. They both are able to beat Ruby Riott, and then they focus on each other again.
Yeah, I agree. It's just the thought process is there. Would they do that? I don't know. I will have to wait and see. And I will say this: I'm glad the Riot Squad is on Raw. It was the better faction as of late. They've done a really good job, I think. And for Absolution, they really didn't have much of a future without Paige. Let's just be honest. So this is what it is, and we'll see. Of course, we'll follow more of the storyline, I'm sure, on SmackDown Live. But I am happy for the Riot Squad. Let's move on to Heath Slater and Rhino. They take on the Revival, and we have
No.
Oh, yeah, Authors of Pain. I'm sorry, Authors of Pain. I don't know. I'm getting ahead of myself here, Brandon.
Wait,
I'm
I
jumping
think you're
away.
I think you're skipping that match. Actually, I think that match came first, didn't
That
it?
match. No, actually, this one is right after the whole situation with Sasha Banks. I actually skipped ahead by saying the Revival.
Oh,
You're
okay.
right. I have the Revival in my brain. I've actually, this whole time we've been talking about different changes and all that, I've been thinking about the Revival and the fact that they could be switching over. I'm just that's the honest truth. Okay, so let's talk about this match though. Before it's a really quick match, basically.
Yeah.
Authors of Pain do get the victory here. Heath Slater and Rhino do not prevail. Big surprise. Not really.
No.
This is just the Authors of Pain being dominant and doing their thing. I like the fact that they do still talk about the fact that Authors of Pain have moved on from Paul Ellering and all that good stuff, and I think it works. I think you need to make sure the Authors of Pain are the presence on Raw that you want them to be, which is dominant. What do you think about what they've got going so far? Are you happy with the Authors of Pain here?
Well, since I wasn't on last week, let me talk about what happened last week, and they referenced to it this week. I get the behind the scenes portion of it. I get that Paul doesn't want to travel much, but I would have made at least a little bit of a deal with him and said, stay on for like a month and a half, what have you. Just for a little bit, just so you can talk them up, build them up to the non-NXT crowd. Use your presence, use your history to build up this team after they come up to the fans that don't watch NXT, and especially some of the older fans who know your history. And then we'll write you off. And you can go back and not have to travel. Them kicking him to the curb so quickly, I just, like I've said, and I said it before, I said it on NXT, on the NXT reviews a couple of times, I am deathly afraid for Authors of Pain, and especially now, with them kicking Ellering out. I just feel that they're going to end up becoming Ascension 2.0. Because without that added bonus of Paul Ellering, they're just two big guys with not really any personality. Are they good in the ring? Yes. Yes, they are. But to the casual, non-NXT based fan, without Ellering, and especially the older fans, who know about Ellering's history and like Ellering, and they still, and I'm sure a lot of those fans still at least try to adhere to kayfabe, they're gonna be like, they got rid of Paul Ellering on the first night back. Screw them. And it's just going to turn a lot of fans off from them. And I don't think that they have enough charisma and have enough within themselves to recover that.
Yeah, you make that point, and here's the thing for me. I look at this situation as being a little nervous myself. According to a lot of fans out there, Paul Ellering, like you're saying, was such a big deal to this group, and their success could be a little wavering here. But in my opinion, I still feel like the big guys that they are, I think that Vince or whoever's in charge are going to do their best to let these guys be dominant. But you're right on the fact that the fans have to have something to really bite into, right? They can't just be big guys. They've got to have some kind of personality. They've got to have something. And I think that they do need a manager of some sort. They need someone to be that mouthpiece unless they can really start getting in the mic and really impressing us in a big manner. I just don't know that's going to happen either.
Yeah,
I
no.
feel like Paul Ellering. I wish he would have stayed on. Right.
Yeah.
I wish he would have been a part of this. And I know that he came out on his Twitter and said, "I've traveled up and down the roads. I could still do it." Yeah, we know he can still do it, but and WWE knew he didn't want to do that full time. He would have eventually told him no. He'd eventually said, "I'm tired. I need to take some time off." And then WWE would have been paying him to sit at home, and that's not what they're going to be doing. I think they need to move in a different direction. In fact, if they don't find anybody on the roster right now to be the manager, they need to go see if Taz is busy, because I would love to see Taz manage these guys.
Yeah, but see, it's not just the manager in and of itself. They need to find, and I've talked about it as well before when we were talking about Shinsuke and Asuka and getting a manager on, when we were talking about it on SmackDown. There really aren't any real managers left. Even in the Indies, even in Impact and elsewhere. You don't really have much to go off of. And Paul, he had that presence to him because of his history and just because how he handles himself. And I wish because WWE knew he's been saying for a while that he does not want to travel full time. Everyone saw it coming when they got called up. I wish they would have done something where, like, it still would have caused the same issues that we're talking about, but I kind of wish, just for the sake of, like, him being there for one night on the main roster and then them pushing him aside on the main roster, I wish they would have done something in NXT, like, after they lost the title match. Like, they do something to him there. And then they just come to the main roster on their own instead of coming with Paul the first night. There really isn't a perfect way of doing this. If Paul was, so hell-bent on not traveling. But, it's just, like I said, I have a bad feeling about this with them.
You know what? I'm not going to say I have a bad feeling, but I can definitely see some red flags. So we'll see how it goes. I hope you're completely wrong.
I hope I'm completely wrong, too.
So let's talk about some other tag teams here, though. I just mentioned the Revival. I try to get ahead of myself, so we'll go ahead and talk a little bit about the Revival. This is a team that, of course, I've always been a big proponent of. I think they matter a lot.
Another team that proves my point.
Yeah, you've got see, and I hate to agree with that, but it's the truth. The Revival are a team that really have not reached the momentum that they've, or the heights that they've, should have accomplished by now. They took on Woken Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt tonight, and of course, right now Wyatt and Hardy have got things going pretty well for themselves, and they're able to beat the Revival. That also means the Revival are not going to get the opportunity that Wyatt and Matt are going to have, which is, of course, to take on Sheamus and Cesaro for the Raw Tag titles at the Greatest Royal Rumble. So that's, big props to them on that. But I do, once again, Brandon, you mentioned it, Revival sliding down again, not getting the big push, not getting much momentum.
Yeah, you mentioned it before. but I think you're probably right, and I would hope you're right for their sake that they are going over to SmackDown tomorrow. Because I said it before, ever since 2016, ever since the brand split started, this has been the era, especially on Raw. Granted, all of this madness started on SmackDown, ironically, but now it seems like they're all on Raw. This is the era of the mashup tag teams being dominant. Sheamus and Cesaro, mashup tag team. Bray Wyatt and Matt Hardy. Granted, they had a storyline reasoning behind it. It makes sense. That one I'm not as annoyed at. But it's still, if you really think about it, it's just a mashup tag team. Bray Wyatt had another one in the past, just a little over a year ago with Randy Orton. It's funny, you would think, like, what, ironically, the Bar is the one who said this, because they were one of the originals, but, they're like, if you want to win, you need to be a cohesive unit, and you need to be a true team, yet the teams that have been, the quote-unquote teams that have been most successful, in WWE over the last 3 years, have not been cohesive units.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, Braun Strowman was able to just pull a random kid out and win the titles. That just really shows how bad your tag division is.
It's the truth, and it's too sad that you're right about that. And Nicholas is great and all, and he has his own Titantron now for WWE, and it's great news for him, but not good news for the tag division at all. And the respect for that division is really low at the moment. I feel like we're gonna be building on that tag division, especially from what we were seeing on this episode of Raw when it comes to the tag teams. I think they really are going to try to push more to get in a better position for those titles to matter more compared to before. I'm very hesitant to say that, but I'm hoping.
There was one tag team that was moved tonight, correct?
Yeah, one tag team.
Yeah. And that one tag team is a joke. So, I mean, it doesn't really help the division much at all.
Well, there's another tag team that we saw that formed.
Oh, yes. That one could actually be pretty decent. And we could potentially have another one if they choose to actually use them as a team this time around.
Yeah, so I mean, we got a few things to talk about when we get to that. But before we get all to that, I want to say, you're talking about these mashup tag teams. I think I want to, give props to Hardy and Wyatt for what they've done so far. Very, very short time span, but what they've done so far has entertained the crowd. They've been fun to watch. I think those guys are going to be a lot of fun to watch in the Greatest Royal Rumble. You know what? I don't know if I want to see them as tag champs yet. I know it's kind of funny to say it because I really feel like the what do they call it? The Gold Rush. What do they call the Hardys? Brother Nero and Broken Matt. What do they call it? The Journey of Gold or
the procurement of gold or something like that.
Yes. I'm not ready for Wyatt and Hardy to go on the procurement of gold just yet. I don't want to see them really as tag champs. It's weird to say that, but I think they're going to be so much better without that.
Personally, I do want them to get, just because I don't really see what else the Bar can really do.
They could get the titles and then lose them again to someone that, we want to see beat them.
But who would that be? There are no teams on...
The teams that we have yet to talk about. So, that's the team I'm going to pick.
Okay, yeah, you're right. You're right.
I'm trying not to get ahead of myself.
Actually, there's another team. I don't think it's the one that you're thinking of. There's another team that I'm hoping they actually use as a team that I hope they get the tag titles at some point.
Well, we're going to get to that, Brandon, and we sure will. We'll talk more about that. We're going to make people wait. So hold your horses, folks. We're going to get to that in a minute.
Teaser.
Yeah, there you go. Let's talk about this before we get to that, because I did skip over this. I want to mention this because it is kind of interesting, and it also really ties into the main event here. We had The Miz come out, and he kind of went on a bragging rampage because he was talking about the fact that the Miz, Taraj, and him were great, but he invites two new guests that are now going to be members of the Monday Night Raw roster, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. And, of course, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn are out there, and they're excited to be a part of the Miz Taraj. You know, basically, Miz says, eat your heart out, NWO. He has a better faction. Well, Kurt Angle has something to say about that. Kurt comes out and says, you can't do that. This is still my roster. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn already knew the consequences of what they, last week. They couldn't both be hired here. And then Sami Zayn has a nice little letter from Stephanie McMahon that vetoes all that. And so it is official via Stephanie McMahon that Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens are official members on the Monday Night Raw roster. Kurt Angle has his little thing to say about that, though. That is that, guess what? The big surprise for Miz is he's no longer going to be a part of Monday Night Raw. That's right. He is going to SmackDown Live because Daniel Bryan had inquired about him. We all know what this is about. I'm so excited. Finally going to get Daniel Bryan and The Miz and get their feud back in store and ready and excited to see all that take place because this is a long time coming for those two guys to feud. So there you go. Of course, it sets up the main event for the 8-man tag. I think what you got here, at least in this brief time, was a really kind of interesting segment. You got some big, surprises and things like that for the fact that, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn are now a part of the Raw roster. And of course, with The Miz leaving Raw, it's going to feel a little weird, but I think, he could definitely be a big help to SmackDown Live.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's where he really, built his name after the brand split. Granted, he doesn't have the show that really made him what he is now anymore. But this is as close to what I was talking about when we started as we've ever gotten on one of these shows. But this is what I'm talking about. Like, even if it's just a WWE.com exclusive or it's a network exclusive or something like that, it would have been so interesting to have seen, like, the conversation in this whole thing of, like, Stephanie being like, I'm signing Daniel Bryan or I'm signing Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn whether you like it or not. And he's like, okay, then, you know what? Just for that, I'm shipping off one of your favorites to SmackDown. I'm shipping off The Miz because Daniel Bryan called me and asked me for it.
Yep, that's true. And, now you're going to have a reignition of a great feud. And, I know a lot of people are going to miss The Miz. I know you're not, Brandon, but I know a lot of people are going to miss The Miz on Raw. I am. But once again, this feud will hopefully save it for me. I think it'll be fine. And, I think The Miz will do just fine on SmackDown Live. He'll get used to being back over there. The one thing is the rest of the Mr. Raj are not going to enjoy it because that could also spell some bad things, in my opinion, for those two guys. I hate to say it, but Bo Dallas, Curtis Axel, you may want to go ahead and look into maybe some other promotions. I'm just saying.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So see if Lucha Underground's hiring. They know TNA's not.
Or
TNA's
Ring of Honor.
Yeah, Ring of Honor is great too. So check it out. But since we're even talking about this, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about this big matchup in the main event. We'll go and talk about it since we're already talking about these guys. We got Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn with Miz, and along with them is, of course, Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel. They take on Bobby Lashley, Seth Rollins, Finn Balor, Braun Strowman, and guess who? Bobby Roode.
Glorious.
Yeah, glorious. Bobby Roode is finally back where he needs to be on the biggest show of a promotion. Because I SmackDown Live, I love it. I think it's great. We all know, once again, the flagship is Raw. I've been waiting to see Bobby Roode on Monday Night Raw for a long time. This is finally coming, so that's why I'm a little bit more excited. But yeah, I mean, we get this main event, and it's really interesting. I think one of the biggest things I need to point out is that Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel decide that they no longer, are going to have Miz there for him. So why even fight in this fight? So they just leave, and Miz gets taken out by Braun Strowman, and of course that whole team wins. So babyface team gets the victory here, closing out Raw, sending Miz packing to SmackDown Live. I think, honestly, Brandon, this was just about entertaining people. I think this is about people getting a chance to see some of the bigger names that they really like watching in the ring. And so, and not only that, Bobby Lashley got a chance to look really good here. I thought that was kind of nice to see as well.
Yeah, I mean, this was just a good showcase of, a bunch of guys. It was a showcase to show Bobby Lashley in the ring for the first time back. Show Bobby Roode for the first time in a Raw ring. The return of Sammy and Kevin. And perhaps maybe the last match. Well, definitely the last match on Raw for Miz, and perhaps the last match on Raw for a few other people.
Yeah, exactly. And, it's going to be, I think really fun to kind of see how this whole thing shakes out and what's going on here on, of course, the Monday Night Raw and all that we're talking about here with the shakeup. But I appreciate the fact that they gave us something here where they gave Miz a final match on Raw, and they also gave us kind of a sneak peek of some of the things that we could possibly see in the future, right? I mean, It's kind of cool. To me, I think it gets excitement up for the fans that are really paying attention to these, guys. So, I mean, we get all that take place. We also can't forget there's another tag team that I think people have been curious about, and that, of course, is the tag team that shows up here on Monday Night Raw with Cesaro and Sheamus. Looking at them in the background with a little disbelief that they're there. And, of course, that is Breezango. So you have Breezango kind of criticizing Sheamus's mohawk and kind of making fun of the kilts, saying that they're dresses. And that, of course, is... I know, ridiculous. I mean, come on. You should know. But, of course, that ensues a fight. So we all knew that was going to take place. We were eventually going to get a match between those two teams. And it's a situation where Breezango gets a cheap victory here. I mean, a little surprised, but maybe a little not. I mean, now it just seems like the Bar have kind of reached this spot where they're now kind of treading water.
Yeah, I mean, the Bar's definitely treading water. I think... unless they are actually going to do something with Breezango on Raw, which I doubt, but, we'll see. This is definitely more of a, the cocky, overconfident heel team going into a match against the supposed jobbers who you're thinking, oh, they're going to win pretty easily, and the other team gets a cheap victory as a result. We'll see how this continues next week going into the Greatest Royal Rumble.
Exactly.
But, I'm assuming you were, I figured you were talking about this team, but the team that I think, hopefully, if they use them as a team, which has yet to be seen, but if they use them as a team, I'd like to see them actually win the tag titles at some point. It are the true best friends. Screw Beretta and Chucky T. It's Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn.
Oh, man, look at that. You know what? Probably some people out there that agree with you. I'm not going to say I completely agree. I like both teams. I really do. I'm kind of indifferent. I like both of them pretty well. But yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a lot of fun to kind of see what we have here with Breezango and their shenanigans on Monday Night Raw. That's going to be a blast. Now, here's the thing here, Brandon. You've got the cheesiness of Breezango on Raw, and you're also talking about the cheesy antics of Woken Matt Hardy. That may be a clash.
Oh God, that would be that would be an interesting feud. I kind of want to see it now just to see what they could do, and you could even do something with it where it's kind of a back and forth between you wouldn't even really need to do it on TV. You'd have to promote it, obviously, on TV for those that don't completely pay attention to everything WWE. But just have, Fashion Files one week, than like a segment at the Hardy compound, and just have them go back and forth feuding without even seeing each other. Maybe, have a few interactions like backstage during a Raw, and that sets up the match, and just have like this really weird, like gimmicky match, I remember one of Breezango's first matches, they kept on changing into different costumes and stuff. So like you could do stuff with them, you could do different weird things with Matt and Bray. It would just be a wacky, like just a fun, wacky type of match. Like it. The only issue that I see with it is that, which is still the biggest irony in professional wrestling to me right now, is that WWE, while they always talk up this whole point that they're not pro wrestling, they're sports entertainment, and really emphasize on the entertainment part, they, in terms of how they treat things in the ring and on TV, they take themselves way too seriously. You never see any of the wacky antics in the ring that you get in other promotions. You're not going to get a Toru Yano on WWE. And that's the type of match that these two teams would need to have in order for it to be successful.
Yeah, and I am right there with you. I think the WB will not allow that probably, and that's a shame.
Yeah.
And they won't do those kind of things to really find themselves in a good spot. But, I think that they can have some success. They're never going to do exactly what we want. They're always going to follow their own road. They're always going to follow a path just a little bit off kilter because let's just be honest, they don't care what we want.
and they don't pay attention.
Yeah, they don't pay attention. And when they do pay attention, it was 2 years ago, what we said, is what they want to do now. So, yeah, I mean, I think you got some good thoughts there that WB does not care about, and it's a shame. But
it really is the biggest irony in pro wrestling that, they try to make it all about, entertainment and, this isn't real, yada, 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 and yet they take themselves completely seriously all the time.
Exactly. Yep, you're right. They do. They very much do, and that's I think a fault in their whole demeanor and everything that they do and their business plan. But that's just them. So there's nothing we could do about it. That's a shame.
Nope.
Let's mention this match: Ember Moon taking on Mickie James. I think we all knew what was going to happen here. We had, of course, Ember Moon getting the victory, but this is something else to know. We had the women's champion for Raw, of course, that is none other than Nia Jax, coming out and sitting at ringside during this match, kind of talking about what she is about, what she's kind of the anti-bully kind of person. But yet Alexa Bliss comes on your screen and says the only reason she didn't come down to ringside like she was going to was because she didn't want to be bullied by Nia Jax anymore. It hurt too much, and Nia knew how much it hurt for her to lose her title. So it's seemingly we got this situation where they're still going to be kind of feuding here. But I mean, we got that going on. Ember Moon seems like she's starting to, do some good here for Monday Night Raw, because I think having her here is kind of a breath of fresh air for this division. I really, it's weird to say that, Brandon, but after seeing 2 matches with her, I really felt like it's a needed addition.
Oh, definitely, because a lot of the matches between multiple people were getting stale. The women's division, even though it's much deeper than it has been in the past, obviously, there are still, we've pretty much seen all the matches already. We've seen most of the feuds that you can see on Raw. And, the fact that we only really, other than Riot Squad, we really only got one true singles switch tonight doesn't really help that situation.
Yeah, you're right on that. And it is what it is, I guess. But I mean, these kind of situations that we look at here and the way that they kind of break things down, I think that it's a detriment to what they're trying to do at times. But I mean, I understand they've got their ways and they've got something going on that maybe we don't completely, I maybe understand or know. But once again, it is what it is. But let's stick on the women's division. I want to mention this, and this is kind of interesting. We have Ronda Rousey backstage with Kurt Angle, and she's talking to Kurt about how great it was being a part of WrestleMania. We have her kind of going on, and Kurt says, well, I understand that you beat Stephanie, but she's still going to be thinking about you, and she's probably planning right now about what she's going to be due to you. So you need to be prepared. And then Kurt says that he's got somebody else coming to the roster, and Natalya walks in the room, and Ronda Rousey is so happy to see her. She mentions that they train together, which is all nice and is very sweet. It seems like Natalya is kind of playing the babyface role at the moment. But we have Natalya in a big match tonight against Mandy Rose. And in this matchup, we, of course, get the normal shenanigans with Absolution, right? I mean, Sonya Deville getting involved and all of that. And, it's just the way it works. But Natalya gets a victory, and that does not make Absolution happy at all. So basically, they started attacking Natalya, and then here comes Ronda Rousey to save the day. Sonya Deville feels like that, hey, I've been in the world of MMA. I can take her. As she gets in the ring and finds out very quickly that Ronda Rousey is the alpha female. I don't know what to think about this. I think it's great for Ronda Rousey. I think, this is a regular edition of Monday Night Raw. This is what you've been screaming for, Brandon, for her to be a part of Monday Night Raw when it doesn't really mean WrestleMania. You got a little taste of it. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely liked that she was there and she actually did something tonight. And that, I mean, we're yet to see, as we move further and further away from WrestleMania, how long she sticks around. But this is a good sign that, she's going to be sticking around. Maybe we'll even get a match or two every now and again. I understand that WWE is still going to try to keep her as, for the most part, a more special attraction type of thing. But as long as you keep her on TV and don't keep her and don't throw her into a title picture without making sure that, she's going to be there every week, then, I think she'll be okay. She's definitely showing that she can handle herself in the ring. I don't see any problems. I think she can I think she'll definitely be perfectly fine. And the rumor going around is that Natalya is going to be her first feud, which I understand. But it's going to be interesting to see how they get to that point.
Yeah, I agree with you because, I mean, think about it. Right now they're playing buddy-buddy. And
exactly.
That could last what? It could last, a pay-per-view, last 2 months, 3 months. Who knows how long that's going to be before they actually, have a big matchup.
I mean, the best way I would think, especially with how they prepared us for this tonight, is to have them feud with, this probably won't happen because I have a feeling Absolution is going to be packing their bags tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I will talk about that later. But if they were to stay, it would be kind of cool. It would be nice to see them, team up against Absolution at, Backlash, and then maybe have Natalya turn on Rousey after the match, and that sets up the feud between the two.
Yeah, and it sounds like a road that I feel like they're going to, probably travel. I think, from my point of view, I feel the same way with you as the thought process of Absolution was to stick around. And who's to say the Riot Squad couldn't play that role?
That's true.
Just because they attacked Sasha and Bayley doesn't mean that they couldn't say, hey, we got other people we're going to try to take the alpha female out, right?
That's true.
Take Ronda Rousey out and Nikki. I'm thinking NXT now. You got Natalya. they're going to play that part of being friends and being kind to each other, and until Natalia really wants a piece of the pie, which is getting all the glory.
The only
So
thing about that kind of, I mean, it would certainly work, but while she obviously wasn't on the same level as Rousey by any stretch of the imagination, that whole thing, if it were against Absolution of Rousey versus DeVille, MMA versus MMA, could be a very intriguing storyline that they could build upon.
you're right, and I love the fact that they teased us with that tonight. I love the fact that they did it, but we knew it was going to happen. There's no way that DeVille is going to get the better of Rousey, and I think in the future, Shayna Baszler is going to eventually, possibly, may move up to the main roster, and if we have her and Ronda Rousey on the same roster or at least around each other at some point, they're going to face each other, and that's going to be a big storyline of MMA. Who's going to win? So I appreciated though what they gave us here with DeVille and Rousey. I think it was kind of fun. It kind of got you a little pumped up, to be honest with you. That little moment kind of got your adrenaline running. At least for me, it did.
Oh yeah.
So I thought that was great. But yeah, I mean, we'll follow this as it goes. There's still, some big things I'm sure ahead of us, and I'm really excited to see. Of course, we'll talk more about some of this before we get out of the show. Let's talk about Roman Reigns real quickly here. Roman Reigns came out and did his little speech to many boos, and basically said at the Greatest Royal Rumble he will be getting the Universal title from Brock Lesnar in a steel cage. So Brock, you better watch out. And that means that, well, Brock doesn't come out, but someone else does. Oh boy, Samoa Joe makes his presence known again, and he's letting Roman know that he doesn't think that he is so great, and he doesn't care what he does, but he knows that he can't, think he can win against Samoa Joe. And Samoa Joe says he wants him at Backlash. Well, Roman is ready to fight. He basically says, "Hey, fat man, come and get in the ring and fight me." I love that. He kind of pointed out Samoa Joe's weight in a way, but Samoa Joe is ready to fight, acts like he's going to come down to the ring and says, "You know what? You're going to go on my time. Backlash. I'll see you in 2 or 3 weeks." I forget, it was 3 weeks or 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think it's 3 weeks.
3 weeks. So I'll see you in 3 weeks. So, makes sense to me. I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
I think all of us are probably assumed the Universal title will be around Roman's waist, I'm sure, by then.
Never. I mean, you're probably right on this time around, but never assume. We all saw what happened a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just going to keep assuming until they do what they say they're going to do. But yeah, I mean, I like this. I like the fact I'm a big Samoa Joe guy. Everybody knows this. But I think he really works well. Him and Roman really honestly have chemistry. I feel like they do a good job together on the mic and the ring. So I'm actually kind of happy with this.
Yeah. I mean, I'm perfectly fine with it. The one feud that I'm most looking forward to once Roman gets the title, because they had great chemistry without the title, and I can only imagine what they could do, especially in a gimmick match for the title, is him and Braun.
Oh yeah, that would be fantastic. So when we get a chance to see that, that'll be something special. But for what they're giving us now, I'm happy with it until we get those bigger matches that you're talking about. So that's kind of a little bit of that. Not a whole lot here for Roman. They're just kind of teasing us for the Greatest Royal Rumble. And of course, not only that, Brock Lesnar is not going to be at this building at this night. So what else can you say? Let's mention something that I've been waiting kind of all night to talk about. And this is something that's, kind of a small segment, but they still give us something I think is very valuable here. You have the big surprise that Dolph Ziggler is now a part of Monday Night Raw. And it's exciting for fans because you hear a lot of fans chanting and getting excited for, Dolph Ziggler to show up on Monday Night Raw. But he comes out and says no matter where he's at, he is still the greatest superstar in the Raw locker room, SmackDown locker room. Whoever comes down that aisle, he's the best. Kind of brags on himself like always. And before he is able to finish his little speech, Titus Worldwide comes out, and Titus offers him a position on the stable of Titus Worldwide. And, well, Dolph Ziggler says thank you. He appreciates the offer. But Titus O'Neil, if you would have listened, I said I had more to say. So he says, the one thing you need to know most of all is I didn't come here alone. And then the next thing you know, Titus O'Neil and Apollo Crews are attacked by none other than Drew McIntyre. He is back, guys. He is a part of the Monday Night Raw roster, it appears. This is big. This is something that I feel like is really interesting when it comes to the tag division because McIntyre, Ziggler together, ooh, that's a powerhouse team.
Oh, definitely. This could be a big team as well. Like we were talking about, the tag team division did get helped out a little bit tonight. We'll see where it goes from here. But yeah, this is definitely going to be an interesting storyline and an interesting team to look at moving forward.
What do you think about Drew McIntyre heading up from NXT and now joining the Raw roster? I'm excited for him.
Oh, I'm definitely excited for him.
It's interesting that he's going to be a part of a tag team, but you know what? I think that's probably the best thing that they could have done.
Yeah, I think it's just a way to kind of get him something to do right now while the top of the card is so full. And then as things kind of thin out or they want to go a different direction, then they'll move him into a singles role and maybe have him win, either the Intercontinental title or, what have you.
Yeah. I agree with you. And, Dolph Ziggler, being on Raw also was a nice change of pace. We get a chance to see him getting into some different kind of feuds and some, I think some big matches where I feel like, even if he's not winning, he's going to help those matches be even better than they were originally going to be against, these other opponents that they've been against for many, many moons, it feels like. So this definitely feels fresh. I'm excited about this team. I think they'll do some good things, maybe make some waves in that tag division. And once again, very happy for Drew McIntyre. Hopefully he is able to take this and run, get on his feet and get even better.
Yep.
But yeah, that pretty much wraps up Monday Night Raw. That's everything that they had tonight. Lots of things to talk about, lots of moves. We still have to wait for SmackDown Live to happen before we know actually everything as concrete. But saying that, what is your predictions right now as we sit here, Brandon, on what we should expect on SmackDown Live?
I'm thinking, like I said, I think Absolution goes over, and they're basically, I'm trying to think what a good comparison would be for this. They're gonna be a lot like how the Shield was originally when they were under the Authority's control, where they're just gonna be Paige's lackeys, I feel, and they're gonna get preferential treatment because of Paige being the GM. In terms of other people going over, I'm not sure. I have a feeling that at least one of the guys on the face team of the main event tonight will be going over. Whether it's either Braun, Seth, or Finn. One of those three. I think we'll see. Maybe either one or both Sasha and Bayley go over. Besides that, I don't really know. It's tough to tell.
Yeah, you're right. It is tough to tell, and the muddy. The waters are still pretty muddy, because that's what they wanted us to have, right? They wanted to set things up where we could still be questioning ourselves. We do know Baron Corbin is no longer on SmackDown Live, so that leaves another giant gap in that SmackDown Live roster. So they're going to fill those needs. It's going to be a definite. I feel like, you're probably going to see, in my personal opinion, you're probably going to see some other changes that we just don't expect at all. We're going to be sitting here talking, I think, tomorrow. Of course, you and Harry and Liz will probably be really getting into this pretty deep tomorrow night about some people that we never would have ever thought we'd see leave Raw. So it's going to be exciting, man. I'm really super ecstatic about, getting this whole thing done and concrete and finished. That way we can really break down the possibilities of both these shows, what direction they're going. but let's be honest, what direction they're going is the top feuds are going to be on pay-per-views. The lesser feuds are just going to get nothing. So. So anyway, besides all that, and I definitely want to leave this show on a downward note like that. What did you think about this show overall, and what did you rate it?
I'm gonna rate this as a 7.5. It was a solid show. Some good surprises, some good different things that they were doing. All the matches were solid. But like I said, I kind of wish that they would do more with this than just guys randomly just showing up. I wish they would actually have, even Kurt just coming out and saying, the newest acquisition for Raw, and and then saying, oh, by the way, someone else, whoever come out, oh, sorry, you just got traded, or something like that, because they even teased it at other times of the year, with, back when they first started the brand split with Foley and Sami Zayn, with him trading Zayn for Eva Marie. Do things like that. Even if it's not actually on the show, so that you're still guessing. Give them a little more time. I know that they try to do this very quickly. Right after WrestleMania. But, even if it's just that week, or maybe, give them this week to kind of have both of them there and doing the wheeling and dealing and kind of start some speculation. You don't have to announce anything. You can still do the surprises to get the surprise reactions, but kind of get that thought in your head of, okay, maybe this person is going there, maybe this person is going there, you could do a lot better than they are doing.
They really could, and I hope that they decide to change this down the line. But as we sit here and this Monday Night Raw, just overall, I kind of felt like it kept you going to an extent. Some of the surprises were a lot of fun. I think that they brought some things to the table that is needed, like, what we talked about, Brandon, with, Ronda Rousey, how is she going to be on the main roster? I feel like they made her look very strong as they did last week, which is a really positive thing, and made her feel like she's a normal presence, not just a attraction. Mm-hmm. I think that's a good thing. I think the additions that they brought to Monday Night Raw really do mean something. I like some of the feuds that we have going on right now. I really don't have a lot of bad things to say about this Raw. Of course, it wasn't grand. It wasn't so special because of all the things you just mentioned about the fact that it doesn't feel like a draft. It just kind of feels like, hey, here's everybody. Big surprise. 1, 2, 3. Okay, we're done.
Pretty much.
So there you go. I kind of feel like a 7 is in order for this show. I just kind of feel like it's good, but it's right in the middle. If I was going to be a real jerk, I'd probably give it a 6, maybe a 6.5 if I was a little bit more. But I'm just going to go ahead and be nice and give it a 7. I felt like it was good enough. So that's just me, and I'm kind of curious what everybody else wants to rate this show. And to let us know what you want to say about this show and maybe your own personal rating of Raw tonight, make sure you leave a comment, whether you listen to us on YouTube, maybe you're hitting us up on iTunes or wherever. Make sure you do leave a comment. Make sure you also leave a review. And don't forget to go hit that subscribe button over at Wrestling to the Max. Of course, W2M Network is the place where you hit that subscribe button to get every single thing over at the W2M Network. W2Mnet.com is the website that you're going to want to type in. That URL is simple, it's easy, and that's the best way you're going to get the best content that you can find in the world of wrestling, sports, entertainment, and video games. Once again, don't forget W2Mnet.com. And also our friends over at 411mania.com and LastWordOnProWrestling.com. Don't forget them either. They do a great job. Make sure you go check them out as well. Don't forget, this is not over. Tomorrow night, Brandon, Harry, and Liz are going to do an excellent job on covering SmackDown Live and 205 Live. Both those shows are going to be covered. You're going to find out exactly what the finality is here of the Superstar Shakeup. They are going to lead you down that journey. They are going to get you set and to understand on what's going to be the landscape coming up here in WB. Brandon, I'm really looking forward to that show. I know you are too. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So, well, once again, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate you guys. And until next time, we will catch you guys down the road.